giving me a forum to express my total and absolute love for Photovoice. I'm going to try and not be so biased, but I kind of am, and you're going to see it. I'll just do a brief. Most of the people in here know me, and if you don't know me, I'm one of the first mugs to have my profile done on our rangahau, on our rangahau pānui. So just click onto that. But no ngati awa me ho, and I have been researching for over 16 years, doing all sorts of types of research, and Photovoice is definitely ranks high up there. So welcome. I just want to start off with a disclaimer. I wrote a disclaimer. Sometimes I talk faster than I think, so keep that in mind if I skip over things. If I rush anything, just let me know at the end and I can go back to it. I'm not going to read every slide word for word. I can give you a copy of my slide afterwards. You can have a look at the stuff then. I'm technologically challenged, but also technologically ambivalent, which means that I find it hard to do tech stuff, but I don't really care. I just get on. It's fine. We'll get over it. This is Photovoice, and there's going to be lots and lots of photos, and I hope you enjoy them, and I hope you feel what photos evoke for us in terms of feeling and memory, etc. Without further ado, I will load up my presentation. All right, can everybody see that okay? Yes, got the thumbs up, ka pai. Okay, so I just did my mihi, but just to give you a sort of like an indication of how many photos there are going to be in here. I'll start with my marae, Tūteo and Te Tiko, my home marae, Tarimano, our Papakainga marae, that's where our whānau home is, on the lakefront of, or the whānau lakefront of Rotorua on the other side, and Matatua and Mangere. So these are my three marae. I put a little picture pony type thing in there just to also say that I'm from the Shetland Islands, and so that's my little homage to my other side, my Scottish side. I just want to ask if there's anyone here that wants to be my purple heart person and someone that wants to be my green heart person. What that job is that when I come to a quote that I'm probably too tired to read, I've got to have a purple heart or a green heart, and if you take responsibility for it, then you read it and not me. So can I have a volunteer for my purple heart? Please, just to give me a rest sometimes. So you just got to read little quotes. And then so when you see the purple heart, you read the quote. Ka pai, Christina, thank you. And the green heart. Come on, they're not really hard. Catherine, thank you, Catherine. Okay, ka pai. So let's get the show on the road. So this is the blurb that I put out on the workshop. So just basically the what this is all about in terms of the empowerment, the awesomeness of the transformative power of Photovoice, storytelling, etc. We'll go into this. This is just the blurb. So in this workshop, we're going to cover Photovoice itself, where it evolved from, how it shifted into Indigenous Photovoice, and then where it's at the moment now with myself and the study that I recently done is the Māori Photovoice. I want to give a case study example. It's time consuming, but the pictures are Tino tahua, so I hope you stay tuned for that. And then we'll have open discussion near the end. So what is Photovoice? So Photovoice is participatory action research. So it's definitely working together research that's really about community change, something that's happening in your community, lived experience that sort of captures your attention. And it might be an issue or something wonderful, but you want to capture it in terms of photography. The founders of this was Wang and Burrs around 1997. And so they've founded this methodology based on documenting and reflecting community stuff. And it also involves group discussions about what you've found and what you want to do with that information, and then how you're going to send it out into your communities. So in practice, Photovoice is about being given a camera, being given the topic of what you're going to cover, going out to the community, seek, hunt, find, capture, and then, like I say, coming back to the group and talking about it, having rich conversations within your little group to talk about it, and with your researchers, because this is really about co-research. As a photographer, you're invested in the research as well and the outcomes of the research. So some of the key things is what you capture and how you talk about it. And so just to give you an example, this is from community photo study, and about an issue to do with, from a youth perspective, on substance abuse. And so here we go, my people person.
Kia ora, everybody. This is my mum's grocery list and my refrigerator. It's almost impossible to get to anything in the fridge without having to move the alcohol out of the way. The fact that there is so much alcohol in the house gives kids the idea that it is normal and okay.
Thank you. So yeah, so this sort of encapsulates mainstream type of issues that can be captured simply by a photo. I mean, I actually had to look twice at the photo to see the alcohol because I didn't really notice. But there's definitely alcohol in that fridge, right? And so if that's your home, it's an issue. So this is a great showing of what example of photo voice in the community. So Indigenous photo voice is like a shift from the standard or general into more about Indigenous issues. But it's a shift because Indigenous people, we're creative. We're about collective knowledge. I think we have an innate part of us that is creative, and we like to photos, symbols, artworks. I think it sort of really connects with a lot of us. So for Indigenous people, it's not too hard of a shift to do photo voice, because I think the beauty that surrounds us captures us all the time. It draws something, it connects with us all the time. And to be able to come to groups and talk about things speaks to our collective nature as well. And so it's about empowerment. Indigenous photo voice can be about empowerment because it's about taking charge, taking control of our own narratives and our own way of seeing things, instead of having someone else sort of capture images and tell us what they're about. This is Indigenous people capturing these images. Photo voice can also be intergenerational. When you have your participants, your photographers, it's wonderful if you can, some of your projects that you do, if you can, from Kaumātua to a Pākeke to Rangatahi, to get those groups together, because it's a wonderful sharing exercise also to have the kōrero, or sometimes to reflect on things, on history together, and things of community issues or whānau issues. And also the great thing about photo voice, I think rings true for a lot of Indigenous / Māori researchers, is that it's very flexible. It's not rigid. You can set a plan, but it's sort of like you know what you want at the outcome. So there's some flexibility about subject matter, how you get it, and how it actually proceeds. And so of Indigenous photo voice from a study that was about promoting strengths and resilience in Indigenous community. And now for my green reader.
This sign showcases the community's willingness towards reviving our Cree language.
Thank you, Catherine. And so, yes, a very simple photo and a little bit of a narrative to go with it, the photo voice. And isn't it funny or quite timely at the moment, quite time at the moment that we've got this whole big drama about having signs that say taiho. You know, it's wonderful for us as Māori just to have something simple as that, but the big hoo-ha about something as simple as that. But it's, so at the moment our community, I don't think, is that willing for us to have these kind of signs yet. So that's something that we've got to work on. And so I've got another example here. Aroha mai, my purple reader. This one's a little bit longer, but it just shows the depth of something of an inner layer of photos within Photovoice. Kia ora.
Okay. When my grandsons came over, I braid their hair. The braid for me represents resiliency. It is also in memory of my grandmother, who was taken from this place very early in her life. The braid also represents connection to my past, keep me present in the present, and connects me to the future, all at the same time. The original teaching about braiding sweet grass and hair as a form of strength. I was once lost, but I made my comeback. I am growing out my own hair, not only for myself, but for family, and to embrace my own strength and resiliency after everything I've come through in my life.
Pai, thank you. And so this is like the brilliance of Photovoice, is that something seemingly a photo of someone's hair being braided actually has very deep meaning, and for First Nations people, the whole thing about braiding and the act of braiding and the braid itself, looking at the braid. So, a great example of Indigenous Photovoice there. Māori Photovoice, another very comfortable shift from Indigenous right down to Māori, and Māori taking control of our own narratives, our own photos, and how we show that to the world and how we share it with the world. And so it's also like a decolonizing process where we're taking charge of how we're seen, and also that when there's meaning made of our histories, of the way we look at community issues, it comes from us. It doesn't come from anyone but us. So that's sort of like decolonizing in that regard, in this methodology, and also it's reclaiming some of the stories that are out there about us, reframing them to how we want them to be told, intergenerationally, and also how we share stories, how we share our experiences with each other. And so just to have them itemize out that, so it's about reclaiming our narratives, amplifying our voice as well, making sure that we get heard. And as I said, a tool for decolonization, and it's also about empowering us. All of our participants from all walks of life can have a go at having agency and autonomy on how things are being projected out there into the community, out there into the world. And so I've just put in some photos here of some personal examples of Photovoice on my own photos. So at the top there, we've got the beautiful picture of Te Waio o Pikihaua. And so that's where I'm from, Awahau na Rotorua. That's our beautiful lakefront, and our awa that flows down past where we live. And someone chose this photo. For me, it's not only the beauty of where I'm from in the top photo, but also that in the very corner, you can only just see it, is my sister. So it's that connection with whānau. So this photo, the deeper layer is me and my sister sitting and looking at our awa. Our awa is beautiful and it's cold, and the rite of passage of going to where I'm from is jumping straight into the awa. You can't just slowly go in, wet your feet and, get in the water. The rite of passage of this place is to stand on the bank and jump in, deep into that cleansing water, feel that this is beautiful and cold. So this photo is it's a connection. If someone was to ask me what connects you to home, it'd be something like this photo. And the other one would be on the left, where you see these are actually my feet. Sorry if you don't, if you're not, feet, but there's a photo of my feet in the one of our lakefronts. Because I'm from Bay of Plenty, I consider myself to be a child of the lakes. You know how we have Tuhoi, children of the mist. I'm a child of the lakes. I love the water, love the lakes. And so if I was also to be asked to take a photo for a study about what connects me to home, what makes me feel good, what grounds me, to take a photo of the many lakes that I've put my feet in, that I've dipped my feet in. Another photo, just quickly, is the one in the middle, is the view from our papa kāinga in Awaho. So when we sit at our home and we walk down, we look right out to the waterfront there. And sort of like for our future generations, we brought a swing for our mokopuna so they can look at the water and they can swing. But the underlying thing about this photo is that you notice that it's partially in water, and that's climate change. So this photo is showing this receding waterline of home, and how that's a real issue for us at home, and how the water is coming more and more up to our lived space, and the real concerns that's going to have for our whānau in years to come. So the underlying issue there. The last photo, just quickly, is if I was in studying to be asked, take a photo of something, an object that connects you to a person, an important person in your life. And so this is the photo of my father's guitar. My father's guitar in his man cave office. My father passed a couple of years ago, and when he passed, I went into his office just to have a bit of time, and I took a photo of this because it's still got his little pick there, still there waiting for him to play. If you were to ask my father what was one of the most important things in his life, it would have been music. It would have been his guitar. And so I actually took a photo of that because I wanted to capture that time, that moment of my dad, and just, see, every now and then I've got it on my phone. Every now and then, if I want to remember my dad without actually looking in his face and making me cry, I look at his guitar because it makes me happy, because he got so much joy out of it. So that's those sort of like emotive type of photos that you can have for Māori Photo Voice. The next ones are photos that connect you to a place and make you proud as Māori. So I'm not going to go through them. But the top one, I went to a conference in the viaduct. I can't remember the name of the building, but this mural of the wahine and the pepe was on the wall. It's massive. If I was to stand next to it, my head might be slightly taller than her nose. And so we had a great conference, and ironically, the conference was about iwi, cultural landscapes connecting to place as Māori. And this was in the eating area, and I wanted to actually get all the seating and put it around in front of this mural so they could all look at the mural and get the understanding of art and how art connects us, to our culture, to how we feel. And I love it. Anyway, so on the very right there is some of the whakairo from the Hopu Hopu, the Tainui Research Centre, and that's another huge carving, and I've not seen anything like this, talking about the Waka Fleet journey, and it's absolutely enormous, and it's absolutely wonderful. And then I've got other examples down there on the bottom left. We've got, because you'll find there's a lot of photos from Te Arawa, because we've got a lot of things to photograph, that's cool. And so that's contemporary art, those heads, they're ancestral on the waterfront, and they just make it a really, you go on the waterfront, you sit on the waterfront, and it feels very Māori. You just see it's around you. It's subtle, maybe not so subtle, especially with the smell, but I'm used to it. I don't worry about it. So it's like the artworks of Rotorua are just phenomenal. So I'll just move to the next one. So the benefits of Photo Voice. As I said, so the pluses are it's very adaptive, which is good. I think essentially it's quite fun. Most people like taking photos. Most people keep like a certain set of photos in their camera because they remind them of a place and a time. most people. It's a very accessible and exclusive type of methodology to work with. Inclusive because you do start off with the researchers bringing you into a study, but before long, and I'll talk about this a little bit later, it's about everybody in the project process, progressing the project along. And like I said, benefits is the intergenerational connections. On one of my research projects, I had 3 teams participate, and they actually spoke about how wonderful it was to actually go on what I call the search and hunt for capturing photos. That was a great time for them to have those kind of time together in that corridor about history of the area. And so that's definitely a benefit is drawing whānau together. And also sort of like developing researchers. So Photovoice, when you've got your photographers, what this research methodology is about really including them as part of it, and sort of like planting that seed of being involved in future research, supporting them as a co-researcher, supporting each other as co-constructing knowledge on a certain phenomena. So very much inclusive. And also one of my research projects, I had one rangatahi that was very interested in the research topic, and it was something that we could continue with later, hopefully, because he was so interested in the whole process. I was like, yay, you might have scored us another researcher. The benefits is that it is a driver of change, because it's us telling our stories. It's us pushing forward the issues that we find in our community, not someone else telling us what our community issue is. It's us speaking about it. So what are the challenges? You know, there are some challenges. It's actually quite an intense process. There's a lot of involvement in Photovoice. If you're co-researchers, there's all the phases that you need to work together. And sometimes I think when you're with your photographers or co-researchers, there's only so far you can go on the koha of their time. And whilst in my projects I do have koha in terms of a monetary value, it actually becomes more intense than that. And I've actually learnt my lesson on some of my research is that I have to be a little more thinking of how much actual time it takes. Also for Photovoice is the whole thing of establishing trust, going into communities that you might not be well known, and then sort of like getting that trust where they want to take photos for you and then they want to talk to you. But there's some research projects where you've gone, oh, well, I'm going to do a Photovoice research project about this, whatever, go into the community and do it. It's not always as easy as that. Yeah, and it's understandable because photos are sometimes very, very personal. So to expect to go in and get people together and say, go out and take this, and then that's, oh yeah, everything. There needs to be processes where you either know them beforehand, you have sort of get-togethers, and then go out and do the research. There's also privacy, like knowing that not everybody always wants to have their face in the photo. So asking your participants when they take photos of things is you've got to get consent of the people. You might not want your face to be put to an issue if you're on the other side of someone's camera, like the substance abuse, So you've got to think about the people that have in your photo. And there's also cultural issues around what you photograph in terms of things that are important to us as Māori. In some cases, let's say, some people want to take photographs of their marae because it's too personal. It's an important thing to them, and it's not something that they just sort of take a photo of and just share it, and So, and also some whakairo that's out there. It's very personal. So all it involves is having a talk about it and how can we share it that's comfortable with all of us, and just having that type of cordial. But it's definitely a challenge, and I get it. So as I said earlier, it's a lot of time. It's a lot of time. You know, you meet, you say what your research project is, and you go out and take those photos, and that can take a really time. And keeping everyone engaged, that they want to keep on doing this and being a part of your research project, feeling that they're a part, and that whole thing of not being a ho-ha, really, sort of, yeah, the fine line between keeping your co-researchers actively involved, but not being overburdening for them. And so barriers to full participation, of course, are things like the time, technology issues, which isn't so bad nowadays. Everyone has smartphones. Everybody sort of, it's maybe in earlier photo voice studies, there would have been a whole thing around, how do you use the digital phone? How do you do whatever? But with smartphones, it's not really an issue. Okay, and also there's a lot of people that sort of like the confidence to take photos. It's sort of a little bit lacking, but all photos are great photos, I think. I mean, it had to be pretty bad for it not to be a great photo, because there's hidden meanings behind everything. So I'm going to move on to a case example, which is my case example of where I applied the photo voice methodology to that I was working on. I have to say that I personally love photography. It's my daughter and I go on searches ourselves for things Māori in our community. And so you'll see all there on the bottom row, these are all my photos that I've taken of certain places that I've been to, where I've just tried to go to different places and say, what here is Māori? And so, we've got Dunedin in there, we've got Central Auckland, we've got, of course, Rotorua again, we've got right out at Muriwai, and even some carvings in Avondale by a housing development that I thought were pretty cool. Anyway, so this is just from the slide that I've done presentation work on before. So my study was mana whenua photo voice perceptions of cultural landscapes and re-indigenising streetscapes. So really, sort of like to pull that down, it's about how mana whenua felt about how they were connected to place, how they saw themselves in place, how they saw Māori in their place. Got some photos in there of the tainui, if you can see the tainui carvings that you pass on the motorway. Aren't they beautiful? Aren't they really, really? Every time I pass them, I go, oh, God, they're so cool. I actually want to be part of a walking tour where you go up and see them up close. Because they're fantastic. Anyway, I love stuff like that. And so my research team, Hoskins and Kara, we were the team that that were working behind this research project. So as I say, the study aim was to understand mana whenua perceptions, and it's of Naho Māngere, and ask them to take 20 photos each. What we wanted to do was like a cross comparison. What did they see of themselves and what did they see outside Māngere, but they really liked. Then we also wanted to get, ideally I wanted 20 participants. It's ideally, it ended up being 10, which is still pretty good considering. And I got an intergenerational group bonus. So 2 queer, 3 rangatahi, and 5 Pākehē. And it ended up being a group from Pukake and a group from Makaurau, which actually ended up being really great, and sort of really brought about some good results. So all good research projects, we have our study phases. We think about things before we go out into the community, before we do our research. What are we going to do? So following primarily the Wang, the founder, it's about meeting together first, going out and getting the photos, doing the interviews about the photos, and then coming together and talking as a group about all the photos, getting everyone to agree on all the photos, and then showing the photos and the narratives. So that was the research plan, and we'll come back to the research plan later. So the first thing, if we do, I'm in the phases, just so that you can see how this went. Because I love taking photos, I often hire my daughter, who's a photographer, does part-time photography. So the reason why I have lots of photos is because I get her to take lots of photos as well as myself. So our first thing that we had to do is bring people together. So what we did is that we actually had hui on marae, and here we are, Pukake marae, and had one of our first hui bringing people together. And it was an opportunity to really have a good kōrero about what the study was going to be about, to explain what iwi cultural landscapes is, because I know it's about. I know it's not a common term, and I just learned it myself, just getting into this field of work that I do. So we had this hui at Pukake. We put a presentation together so that we could cover everything that needed to be covered. Our Makaurau interviews were actually done online. And a couple were done in the homes, but the only one that we actually ended up doing on marae, I want to do them all on marae, but it just wasn't possible, was this Pukake. So I've got the research participants that we've got in this photo here, but I can tell you that in this photo, only half of them actually carry. And that's just because of how intense it is, engagement of staying on this, working on this project. So we gave the definition of what a cultural landscape is. I'll just get my, if my green person still with me.
Aye. Cultural landscapes are visible community-based features or fixtures that promote and acknowledge Māori presence, in particular mana whenua, as first occupants. Examples of cultural landscapes include traditional and contemporary Māori public artworks, pou, Māori carvings, and wayfinding signage. The importance of cultural landscapes is that they can contribute to an increased connection to community, Māori identity, sense of belonging, healing, and enhanced well-being.
Oh, kapai, thank you. So what we also did is, along with the explanation, we didn't want to create a bias as to what you need to look for, but at the same time, understanding that, say, go out and search for iwi landscape, cultural landscapes in your area might be a sort of, might take a little bit more thinking. So we also did examples, and I'll just quickly flick through these. So you have hapatakoro, water fountains, art installations as cultural landscapes, the waharo that were on Queen Street, iwi art installations. And so we have this one here, Aotearoa, and if you'll notice, the one in the middle, Te Kahu, is also the one that I've got blown up in the back of me here. Beautiful, beautiful piece of art. And interestingly enough, sorry, just a side note, these photos here actually have these carving pakairo here have a little sign on the back of them saying that these carvings cannot be photographed for commercial use, which I think is kind of cool. You can't plaster them on any kind of commercial brochures, you know, private use on your wall, fine, but nothing for anything commercial. And so where else can we see cultural landscapes? Bus stops, the Whakatauki there, this is Waiheke Island. Train stations, just little things like carvings, etc. Street sign naming. And so even the name, sort of like, yeah, all sorts of naming. I just want to say that sometimes in my presentations, I put little Easter eggs, if you know what Easter eggs are, so like little quirky things. And this one is Te Irirangi Drive. So this sign was up for a year and it's spelt wrong. As we know, it's spelt wrong, but it took council a year to notice that they'd spelt that sign wrong, so I had to capture that and sort of, I was timing how long it took them to change it. But anyway, that's my little Easter egg thing there. Also, iwi signs, cultural narratives. Now, I want to let you know that there's no such sign as the welcome to Te Aroha. I mean, it's kind of true. No. But there's no such sign. I saw it on Facebook and it made me laugh. So I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to grab that one. So cultural we've got narratives as well. When you go to some areas in Auckland, I think it's a good thing when we narratives about what was originally there in the area, etc. Sort of like explaining the cultural landscape. And then also part of cultural landscapes are native planting, native boxes, the planting boxes, and also the wall art. Beautiful, beautiful wall art. And, you know, of course, got a bit of te aroa in there as well. So just beautiful to look at. Little things like also patterns on pavements as just a connection to us as Māori, just to remind us, you know, we're in New Zealand. This is unique. This is us. I know that there's some groups out there that don't like patterns on pavements, motifs on buses. Personally, I don't mind them. I think we need that connection. I think that we always need to stamp who are the peoples of New Zealand. So I obviously they have to be done in a tasteful way, but I don't have a problem with pavements myself. And so alongside our presentation, alongside giving examples, we also talked about the equipment. We didn't really have to give equipment because they had their own photos. We gave a two-step koha, which is once they took the photos and we had the interviews, they got a koha for that, so we could get them to cover the photos, taking photos. And then we gave another koha at the end of the study, just so that we had that engagement. And also, I felt it was worth a double koha. And if I could go back and change anything, I'll probably make it a larger koha and more koha, because you know, I didn't myself realize how intense it was going to be until we got near the end. So yeah, so there was documents to talk about taking photos, consents if they had other people in them, health and safety issues, what to search for, and also that these photos were to be taken in their normal travels, not to go out of their way, except for I did hear of a little whānau group that on a Sunday and took photos. But I mean, ka pai, that's what they wanted to do, and it worked out really well for me, so it was all good. So the next phase was for them to go out and capture their images. And so here's an example of some of the images. So in total, we got 200 images from all our 10 participants. And so here's some of the examples of the photos that they took. So street names were liked, especially Tipuna street names. The Maunga, the Whakairoa down by Dew Drop Centre, and the Pahunui's train station, which was actually designed with mana whenua, and one of our participants said that they really like that train station because it actually looks like a stingray. You know, it has a shape to it, which is one of the things that's great about design, is when you can see, you know, something in it, aside from the Māoriness, but you can see what they're trying to, you know, what they're trying to show. And the tui on the bus stop, these little connectors of place. So this is what they collected for us. And so this is just a small sample just to show you. So the next phase after they collected all the photos is the arduous task of going through the photos, selecting which ones they liked, which ones they were okay to share with us. Oh, shoot. So this is my techno stuff. I'll go back. So we came to the interviews. So prior to coming to the interviews, we asked them all to select their favourite photos, 5 of inner Mangere and 3 from outer. You'll see here in my little blurb here that I've crossed out built and I've put in disliked. And that's because taking a lead from the photographers, they didn't strictly take built features that we'd spoken about. But I mean, you know, hey, aha, whatever connects you or you see as a iwi landscape is up to you. So when some of the photos I got back were of a tree or flowers or, you know, kapai, you know, up to them. But also I sort of said, let's just what makes you connect to the whenua, your home, and so it was like kind of like, what do you like? But then I had one photographer that took photos of things that she didn't like, and I was like, oh, actually, I didn't think of that. I was like, so there were some things that she felt in her community weren't really Māori, and why are they here? can't think of why don't we have more Māori things. I sort of, I don't really like this being in our community kind of thing. So it actually brought an interesting dynamic. And so quite willing, quite happy to change the scope of what our photos would be about to include dislike. So got each of our participants to rank the photos and then talk about each photo. So this is just an example of one of the photos, and I've kind of jumped ahead to say how it was in the exhibition, but it's the Tino Rangatira that on Ihumātao. And so this is part of the protest movement, as we know it. And I've also included one of the labels that was at the exhibition. And so when I had people, and it did happen, when I had people taking, more than one people taking a photo of the same thing, we actually put them both on the label, but acknowledged the photographer. And so I'll just ask my purple person to, purple reader.
Steph Eka Utakia, is that correct? Okay.
Yes, please.
Okay. It's simple, but it's quite powerful. I think if I was to see this on the street in public places, I would be like, yeah, Tino Rangatiratanga. I'm starting to cry a little bit. It's a symbol that I feel. It makes me proud to see that. It's just Māori. I didn't realise until talking about it how emotional it would make me feel.
Thank you. So got a little bit of that, or quite a lot of that in our interviews, is the sort of the feelings that they brought forward for them. And so another popular photo, and actually with the intergenerational group, was the Tawhiao cottage. And so Mokopuna, the auntie and the nanny all took a photo. Actually, there were more than that. I think there might have actually been 5 or 6 photos of the Tawhiao cottage. And so my green person of the Fire Julie's cordial.
Tawhiao Cottage represents a whole lot of discussion from the 1970s when it was being moved. Work quietly happened whereby the Kingitanga, Auckland Council, Monaco Council, and Sir Barry Curtis and the regional people made it their responsibility to uplift that building and transfer it up to Te Paneo Matauho.
Hi, thank you. So as a iwi cultural landscape, this little whare here meant a lot to our mana whenua group, purely because of what this building represented for them and for a long time. So it was quite cool that I think only 2 of them were together that took it together, but the other ones did it on their own. So, it just showed how important this cottage was, or this whare was to them. And so here's one where it's just a sign, but there's more to it than the sign. So my purple person, it's a bit of a big one, sorry.
Okay. I don't think it's a typical cultural landscape feature. This has been here since we moved out to Pukaki. The sign that greets you when you come to Pukaki Papakaina. For me, it brings back memories of why we needed it there in the first place. It's a staunch sign for our whānau. It's very Pukaki. Te ākitai. We don't have a big blazing sign that says Te ākitai wairohua Pukaki, a big flash whakairo or anything to greet people. It's something that we're staunch about, and I think it carries a lot of mamae in history that we've experienced over the years. We're claiming this whenua back, and we're claiming our marae. For me, this modest, humble sign is very powerful. I love it.
Ka pai. Thank you. Yeah, so it's what these things mean to there's way more depth to these little things, and why she wanted to capture it, and why Te Aroha sort of like picked this out of her selection, is that this means a lot. There's a lot of mamae, there's a lot of history to this sign. And yes, when you go to visit Pukake Marae, you have to drive past the sign, and if you haven't actually been asked to go there, then don't go. Turn around and go back. It's just like it's a mana whenua, it's a home marae. It's not like a conference marae or that type of marae. It's a home marae, so it's really cool. Okay, and so my next one, also taken by Fire Julie. Where's mine? By Green Person.
This represents at least 3 generations of my Wirehana Takanini Rauwhero family claiming back, inhabiting and building on land that was confiscated from us twice. It represents whānau unity, and with the help of people and organisations such as Rangiwalka, the Auckland District Māori Council, the Tainui Māori Trust Board and the Kingitanga, we were able to get the land back and marked as papakainga.
Kia pai, thank you. So this is the thing about photos and sort of like capturing our own histories and telling it with our own voice and showing it with our own voice. I actually really like it, and amongst our team, we actually really like that we can see the photo taker's shadow in the photo. It kind of brings a very human aspect to the photos. Like, there's Fire Julie with it. It's one of those photos that's got the cover. You see with taking a photo of the papakainga there at Pukake. And interesting enough too, it's of the old part of the established houses there on the left, but also the new papakainga development in the back, the new houses where her daughter lives. It really very much shows what Fire Julie is talking about in terms of getting that land back and living on it. Oh, shoot. Okay, and so one of the other photos that were taken of what they can see in the community that really resonates to them as a connect and Māori culture or mana whenua is the papatakaro up on the maunga there, Mangere, and the pavement patterns. But more than this playground also has a kiorahi field, it has a pātaka, it has a hāngi pit. And as a community, you can hire this hāngi pit. So there's actually, I know for those of you who already live here in Auckland, Mangere, Griffa, you already know about this, or well know about this, but this was actually one of the most popular photo subjects of what connects them as mana whenua and to Mangere. This is papatakaro. So for my purple person.
Central Auckland gets a lot of attention for the things that they do, but for me, this is definitely one of those highlights where our iwi tupuna maunga authority all could contribute to it looking so great. It's a game changer because where else can you get that in a public space in New Zealand? The Māori features in that playground and space is just really nice, and I'm really proud of how it looks and feels.
Okay, thank you. So that sort of really sort of speaks for itself, and because it's a really nice looking feature. It's beautiful. And so just sort of the last examples that we're doing the photo in the corridor for is the photo of one of the wahurua that are put, I think, around Matariki time. I don't think they're all that, sorry, I don't go to Queen Street a lot, but so this is Gray and Tiffany's artwork that goes over Queen Street. And this is one of the quotes for this corridor.
I want to see more of this, where our stories are told through art. I see the value in having our cultural landscapes wherever they generate people's curiosity, and to want to dig a bit deeper into te ao Māori. and into local whakapapa and tangata whenua of that rohe.
Thank you. So this resonated with a lot of us as the research group about wanting to see more of us told, more of our stories told in this kind of creative format. So this was as one of the I'd say most popular, but one of the most sort of favourite photos. And in actual fact, the article that we wrote about the study itself was the headline was "I want to see more of this where our stories are told," and that sort of became a little bit of a catchphrase for our studies. Is that as Māori, we want to see more of this. We want to see more of ourselves, our faces, and our places. And so this was a really good. This is a really good photo to be, one of our top ranking ones amongst the participant group. So just jumping back to the photos have been collected and we talked about them, we had the interviews. The next phase of the research project is to get everyone together and to talk about the photos, maybe talk about theming, talk about what are going to be the favourite photos and where you're going to exhibit and all that kind of stuff. And so to do it as a group and sort of like, what as a group what issues do you want to sort of draw to attention? What do you want to talk about? And so ideally, you have that hui, that participating hui. And I say ideally because this is another one of those things that had to be changed. Was I had to queer to study quite a bit of health issues in terms of trying to get us together all the time. So we weren't able to come back together and have that hui. We did it online. It wasn't the same. And if I had more time, I would have tried harder to bring everyone together. But that's the realities of our research. Is like I say, it doesn't always go to plan. We tried our best to keep everybody sort of engaged in picking their top photos and how they're going to be featured and where they're going to be featured. So that's no hui. And so the next phase is all the agreement. You've done the slide to show you, and I think it's correct that we sort of get agreement all the way along with our co-researchers. So this is their feelings and their thoughts and their lenses view of things. So you want them to be happy with how they're displayed, what the narratives are. And also what issues are the main issues, how we theme them, how we display them, and also when you've got people's corridor to a photo, it can sometimes be 3 paragraphs long, and you can't have that in an exhibition. Want short, sharp sort of corridor to go with your photos, even though we showed a long one before. So it's getting together and having an agreement as to what's the best way to cut down your narrative. And so getting agreement with that, and that you're not losing the message. So in that co-research, co-construct space, it's like, are we happy with what we're saying? Is it conveying exactly what you wanted to say? And are you kapai with that? And if you are, yay, that's what we're going to put up. So that's when I talked about some of the challenges, this is how it's more intense, but I think it should be. It fits well. And so as the next process is actually to get your story out there into the community, get the issues, what you want to be said from your photo voice out into the community. So because our research group were mana whenua, when we spoke about how do we first want to start this, what's going to be our first dissemination in terms of exhibition, they all agreed that they wanted to have it home first. So it's ihu mātau. We got agreement, that's where we were going to do it. An agreement that it was going to be for mana whenua whānau only, not a public one, no stakeholders, mana whenua and our researchers and our research group. So because it was, so for me, that was kapai. Let's do that because I want them to feel comfortable with the way their photos are displayed and see get a feel for it. And so this is just one of the promotion boards that we made up about the exhibition itself, and the co-research, my photographers there, that's all of them except for my kuia, it was a cold, windy, wet night at ihu mātau and they couldn't come out, it was kapai. So that's all of my group could come together. Just finally, just a little side note, on the bottom there on the left, Te Aroha is kind of like some kind of there, because it's a photographer taking photo of a photographer taking a photo of their photo on the photo wall. Yeah. I don't know why she's taking a photo of her photo, because it's on a camera, but she wanted, I think, the whole thing of having her photo, her photo on the wall. So I kind of, that made me laugh. Anyway, so I just want to acknowledge my photographers. They gave approval for their names to be on their photos. They actually wanted their names to be on the photos. And this is my group. It's my poster cut in half. So I'm going to give acknowledgement to all my photographers. I also want to give aroha for Hinengaru Thompson Rowhero, who passed away recently. Some of the delays, some of the things was due to her illness. And she loved the study. She loved taking the photos. She loved having corridors about the photos. We had great interviews. She loved to have in-person interviews because of some of the weather events, health events. Some of them we had to do via Zoom. But Whaia Hinea wants to know, come to my house. We have a cup of tea in corridor. But they were lovely. They were a lovely corridor. And she was ill the night of the exhibition. It was cold. She couldn't come. And so it was really sad because she just enjoyed the whole thing. Anyway, so all my participants. So in the exhibition itself, we did not have a notice to say what iwi cultural landscapes were. We just sort of had this kind of description. But my pupil person, if you can read that.
Right. As Māori, we have a unique sense of our landscape. It includes past, present, and future. It includes both physical and spiritual dimensions. It is how we express ourselves in the environment. It connects whānau and whenua through whakapapa. It does not disconnect urban from rural. It is not just where we live. It is who we are.
Ka pai. Thank you. That sort of, just having that little sign on the wall sort of just gave it a feeling of a generalized feeling of or a theme of what the exhibition was about. So this is in the Kaitiaki Hub at Ihumātao, and we're actually lucky enough to get Kiani Matata Sipu to curate our photos and to help us sort of which ones should be the big ones, which ones should be the get the sizing right. All I was the label. I got tasked with putting the labels, so I didn't play these photos because it was sort of like they were themed and they were placed, and it was like, oh, my job was just to come along later and put the labels. Very important though. So the medium for these photos was on HD metal, which is, so they come across here like quite shiny, but they're quite resilient. And when you're in the room, they're actually quite vibrant. And we didn't want to have framed photos. We didn't want to have photos that were on like a canvas type material. We wanted that vibrancy to show the beauty of the art. So it was kind of expensive, but Murray Hoskins on the study had already done a sort of an exhibition before, so he had already projected into a project that we were able to cover the cost of these photos. So this, you'll see a few more photos that I haven't shown before, but this is one more. And this is another wall of the photos, the narratives. So also the beauty of having our first exhibition at the Kaitiaki Hub is that I asked a couple of my photographers, my co-researchers, if they wanted to speak, and they did, which is really cool. So at our exhibition we had three of our photographers actually about the experience of finding Māori identity in place, let's say, our faces at our places, their likes, their dislikes, but just the journeys that took place. And so in this warm, comforting environment with good kai, a little bit of wine, and good company, we spoke about the photos, enjoyed the photos. And for those of us on my research team, that head there with the grey hoodie, that's James. So our James there at the exhibition. And so last week we talked about interviews, and we talked sometimes grabbing a lot of data and sort of not caught it or what to do with it. And so I had a lot of great data that I still wanted to use. They weren't actually related to a photo. So what we did is we created just a couple of signs that were quite pointing out things that were said during the interviews. And so it was the perspectives that they had on Māngere. And so I've just, I've just highlighted one there. So if my green person can read the bottom one by Karen.
That's what Te Tiriti is all about. You've got to get the Māori part working well before you can encourage everybody else. Get the bicultural working before you can get the multicultural involved. People in Māngere need to be aware of the history of... Sorry, Fi, I can't see the next couple of words. It's covered with your name.
Oh, sorry. Oh, I didn't know that was happening. Oh, look at me, my technically challenged. Okay, so it says how those waka came in, how and where Māori settled first before other people came. So I thought this was a really good, cool quote. She's talking about, and somewhere like Māngere, you need to get that if you're going to have, you're going to look at how the community to look. You need to get that biculturalism, that treaty partnership right first before you do the multicultural. And I thought that was really quite telling from mana whenua about how they felt about that whole concept of partnership and how it was realised how it looks. So as part of Photovoice as well, it's not only as an exhibition, and in this case for mana whenua, but you also want to have a stakeholder, a community exhibition where you actually really get those issues out. And so we organised a community stakeholder hui exhibition. So there I am. We went to the education centre, I think it's for weeks. They went to the education centre and we set up our exhibition and we got people to come along, and I got all my photos up on a board, and we had community people and we had stakeholders. We had a few from the council, but you know, this photo kind of shows that there wasn't a lot of people that were coming around looking at my exhibition, which is a real shame. But I think as Māori, as researchers, we know that there's sometimes that we go to spaces where people may want to look at your pictures, but they don't really want to have too much of a big corridor with you. But as long as we're there and we're doing this and we're getting our stories out there and we're in control of our stories, it's standing that ground. So I want to tell you that, you know, the community stakeholders made change for everybody, but it didn't. You know, we just didn't really have enough people there. But can't play. All right, so just to give you a sort of a start to finish kind of like a timeline for this. This project commenced in 2023, I think just after Cyclone Gabrielle, which delayed us. And then final outcome was this year. And so we have all those things in the middle that happened. And we gifted the photos back, the HD metal photos, we gifted them back. So if you walk away with anything from today, I love Photovoice. I love the whole thing of taking photos, talking about photos, and trying to get an understanding of photos. So if you're considering Photovoice, consider, you know, who's holding the lens? What's the story you want to tell? Who tells the story? Look at these two images. Like at the beginning, I had my tūteo photo of our marae. There's tūteo there. I think it's around 1929, the photo on the right. And so just imagine if we could ask whoever took the photo of my wharenui tupuna back in the day, you know, why are they taking those photos? What are those people doing? What's the pressing thing of the community of that time? You know, it's just fascinating to me. Sort of like, yeah, what's the story behind? What's the story? Who took the photo? I imagine it was Pākehā, but you never know. I don't know. So the difference between the photo on the left, which is me and my whānau, we were there for a wānanga, and what's happening in the photo on the right back in the day, sort of like, yeah, it's interesting to think about that and think about how we want to reclaim stories in the way that we want to be said. And so once again, the takeaway message is it's about reclaiming our stories. It's about our realities and how they're understood. And I think if you like this, you should give it a go. I encourage it. I'll be here to support you if you want to have a kōrero about it. I want to say, because I know Heidi will like this, my daughter, this is my daughter in Tahiti. So we're travel partners, but also I'm a bit of a stalker. When I take photos, I try and make sure my daughter's in it. If it's not her foot, it's her shadow, it's her back. She probably knows I do it. But to me, being in a place, in a situation, is more than the view. It's like who you're with. And so, I'm sorry, I've got hundreds of photos of my daughter's back, foot, head, ear, because she doesn't like face-on photos. I get that. But to me, that's sort of I can go right back to that moment when we were all walking on that beach, and what we had for dinner, and we actually went there, funny enough, to photo some of the original marae settlements in Tahiti, which were amazing. It was an amazing tour. So I've got to the part where we're up to open floor kōrero. Any questions? If I skipped anything, if I spoke too fast, I just want, this photo here is a gang of tūteo, and I just want to say, so this was taken, I took this because I went outside to do something. We were having a whānau hui, and I went outside to do something, and I was like, oh my gosh, before I go in, this picture speaks like 1,000 words, because all those shoes, the people that belong to those shoes, they're all related to me. Every single shoe on that doorway is related to me. All my whānau in the nice warm whare. There's all different types of shoes. There's gumboots, there's jandals, there's flash Kathmandu boots, there's pink jandals, shoes, and like we're all come together to have a whānau hui about, I actually can't even remember what it was about, but it's like, this to me encapsulates me, my whānau, and the purpose of the marae. All those shoes in their varying sizes and their varying types, and yeah, that's the beauty of Photovoice and putting those narratives to a story, to a picture. I have an end slide that has recommended readings. Oh, there it is. And in it is my own article as well. You don't have to read it, but it's this will be part of the PowerPoint that you can come to later. So I'll come back to this, and then I'll stop sharing. And then, yeah, if anyone's got...
we have one part for you, Kiri, and if there's anyone else. How have you managed to keep your Photovoice rangahau protected from AI or Photoshop manipulation? And do you need to copyright your images in your mahi?
Gosh, those are some great questions. So actually, no, I haven't been able to work with that copyright phase of them. They probably can be grabbed. When we published the article, we did hum and har about actually putting some of these photos in the article, but we got the release to do it, and I think we're in such a phase where our photos are out like this that it's hard to keep a control of that, but it's something that needs more looking into, but something I haven't been able to sort of look into yet, because I do want to do more Photovoice studies eventually. I do. I love this. I love this methodology. So sorry, I don't have an answer for that one. Any more questions? Is anybody inspired? Is any, if you were to look on your phone and you were to find a photo of something that's sort of like, it's like it doesn't have people in it, but it captures a time and a moment, and something that made me laugh, something that made me cry. I think most of us have something like that on our phone. So yeah.
I think it just makes you realise how much of a taonga photos are. And the ironic thing for me at the moment with the mahi that Marama and I are doing with our marae in Takipu, and the marae is unavailable, but we've gone to the museum, and without realising the museum is holding all of the photos of the marae. at the moment until the marae's relocated and moved. So it's been quite special to be there. Yeah.
Ka pai.
Not sure if anyone else has pātai. Oh, there from Alex. How do you preserve your photo voice rangahau?
How do you... Sorry, I've seen, I don't know what kind of setting I've got my computer on, but I've seen some comments come up and then they flick onto my screen and then they float off. So I'll go back and look through the comments at another time. So how do you preserve this rangahau? It's kind of a tricky one because as researchers, we can't sort of really hold on to this for too long. So I gift that things like gifting back the photos back to the co-researchers themselves, putting an article out, talking about it, doing presentations, but then in actual fact, permission to do things like this. Like the permission I got was to be able to do this again, but preserving it sort of like it's out there now, it's being disseminated, and that's the only sort of thing I can do. And then after, because this only finished this year, I've got a 5-year sort of span, and then I actually will probably need to, I want to say get rid of it because that sounds a bit cold, but sort of like I can't have it anymore. But it's well and truly gone back to my research participants, my co-researchers, this information. All copies of our transcripts, all recordings, all my co-researchers had the option. Some did, some didn't, and all the photos, of course. Ka pai.
No further pātai, anyone?
Thank you so much for coming this afternoon and listening to me. I had to rabbit on, even I'm tired of myself. I just, yeah, this is a lot of kōrero that I had to cover, and I hope I got the message across. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, and I just hope you think about it as using it as a methodology. You too. I just think photos are just wonderful things. My daughter and I go out on weekends and just go hunting for things to take photos of. It's something fun, So we've been all over the place taking photos of what we see to be as something Māori in our community, sort of like a search, hunt and capture kind of exercise. Just love it. But I might be a bit geeky.
That probably answers your question, Brad. Search, hunt and focus.
Yeah, capture. Oh, capture. And maybe you want to explain, or maybe you don't want to explain. Maybe you don't want to put a narrative on it. It's just like, just for it yourself. That's all good. Well, I think that's probably going to bring us to the end. So I'll have a look at the comments later. But my details are in our Te Mano Haukura page. So if you want to make contact, I'm more than happy to talk about Facebook. I'm more than happy to sort of hear your idea or whatever. And also, I mean, if you've got some advice for me, if someone's got some advice for me also about that copyright thing, I'd be very interested. It's really something I should look into.
Just going to do a shameless plug for next week's workshop is with our very own Kitty Edge. Whoop, whoop. But thank you so much for your kōrero today, Kimiora. And thank you for everyone for joining us. And I wish everyone have an awesome, happy and safe long weekend.
Awesome. Yes, long weekend. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you, fellow teammates.
Kimiora.
Thank you, buddy.